The views expressed on the following program are those of the hosts, callers, and guests, and are not necessarily those of WMEL staff, management, or advertisers.
Hello, Space and Treasure Coast. This is Seeta McGee on the Talk to Me station, AM 1060 WMEL and 1060WMEL.com worldwide. My name is Seeta McGee. As you all know, I had an email from someone who said that I don't say my name enough. So here you go. My name is Seeta McGee, Seeta McGee, Begui.
And thank you for everybody who gives us these little critiques because, you know, our first profession is not necessarily be radio personalities, although we have been doing it for a long time now.
Well, we've been doing it going on 5 years, and we've seen our station grow from 5,000 watts to 50,000 watts. We're now heard almost half of our state, and of course online, the entire world. I had a marriage proposal from India.
Yes, I keep deleting those for you, by the way, because I know Ahmad doesn't like them.
Yes.
Mr. Doc.
Yes. So, but anyways, our show today on AM 1060 WMEL and 1060WMEL.com is going to be a fabulous one because we have in studio Ellen Little, my co-host, and we are proud to welcome to our studio my good friend Yvonne Mason and her friend Kelly Koch, which for me is an easy name to pronounce today.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And Yvonne is an author. She is a very good friend. We met years ago and we kept our friendship. Yvonne is the eldest of 5 children. She was born May 17th in Atlanta, Georgia, raised in East Point, Georgia, and she moved to Jackson County, Georgia until 2006, and then somehow she made her way to Florida, and she currently resides in Port St. Lucie. And she's also, get this, Ellen, a licensed bounty hunter for the state of Georgia.
I love it. There's 2 things I love about Yvonne, and I think I said it a little bit on Facebook, but I wanted to say it again here on the air for all of our listeners. First of all, I love the fact that you're a bounty hunter, because how many bounty hunters do you know in your lifetime, right?
Especially when they're for 11.
Exactly. And a pocket full of dynamite, let me tell you. And then the second thing I love about you is your delay in going back to college. So many people say, oh, I can't do that. I can't. And you're just one of those people. You were on one of our very first shows and have been on a few other times. And we just have such a great conversation with you. But I just love your spirit of just like, okay, today I'm going to be a college graduate. I just decided I'm going to do that.
What it is, you know, when you hang around people who are positive,
right,
somehow you vacillate towards more positive people. So we have her
attraction. Absolutely,
we've got more people that come on our show. People like Jackie Chandler and Seeta Gibson, and they're all women who are older ladies who are retired in some sorts, and then they decided that we're going to do something else, and by golly, nothing stops them.
You know, like something like launching a skincare line or something like that, like in the middle of your 50s. You know, yes. God bless you, Seeta.
Well, but for our listeners who are just tuning in, of course, we're going to go to Yvonne Mason and our friend Kelly Koch in a few minutes. Yes. But, you know, Ellen, first I want to, of course, we've always said that our show here on AM 1060 WMEL and 1060WMEL.com. We've also said that we've often said that our show is about educating the public, entertaining our guests as well and our listeners, and also giving out good information so that people can make well-informed decisions about life, about voting, the environment, whatever it is. And today I want to say that over the weekend, watching the news and watching the loss of life, 5 policemen died in Dallas, and of course we had 2 black men that died at the hands. We don't know the whole story. Is that of course everything has to be looked at, but there's just too much violence, and I just want to say to our listeners that I've come up with a formula to help all of us with dealing with violence in the communities as well as across the world. And it's one thing: we need to offer guidance to our young people. Yes. Whether you live in Afghanistan or Trinidad and Tobago or the United States, when you have a child, you know, people worry so much about the child in the womb. We need to start worrying about the children when they're born. They need to be cared for, and they need to have influences that are going to make them great people, people of peace, people that we can respect, and people that we want to live next to and not worry about if they have a way of hurting us, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the sad thing about all of this is the fact that I think everybody is starting to become almost desensitized to the fact that we're having these massive shootings in our United States, of where we never would have thought any of that would have happened. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's another one that happened, instead of, the rallies and so forth that are going on, the protests. I'm totally for them. I think we should be going and protesting peacefully, but certainly not with a result of getting 5 officers shot and the way that we're doing things. The other side of it is I saw a great sign at a house in Satellite Beach. Actually, I think it was over the weekend, because I was in the Satellite Beach area on Saturday, and it said, big red sign right out in front of this person's house that said, "Turn off the media and love your neighbor." And I was like, something, that's another piece of it. I think we get overindulged a little bit in the fact that, that poor gentleman who was killed in Minnesota, we had the thing blow by blow on Facebook. I mean, we had the entire scene put on Facebook. And that gets people, that could almost cost PTSD. For some people watching those kinds of things, and then adding more aggravation.
We're publicizing everything to a point where we're
too much.
It. But
it's too much.
On the other side, though, thank God for social media, so we could see things that are going on in our community and in our world, that we can make a difference. When we vote for when we vote one good legislation, when we want to vote for people who can help causes like, the environment, gun control, whatever it is that affects your life, issues, education or whatever. When you see stuff like that, then instead of joining a protest, register to vote, or register for college, or
ask the questions.
Help somebody in your community. Like the Dallas police chief said this morning. He said, get off the protest line and put in an application. Whether an application for a job or whatever it is, but use what you see on social media for the good, for the common good.
Exactly.
And so I think, on that, of course, Yvonne was talking as well in our green room. We were all talking about that.
Not quite green, is why we laugh.
We were talking about that this morning, just before we got on air on AM 1060 WMEL and 1060WMEL.com. And I think we all agreed to an extent that all of us are moms and aunties and grandma, and if we want to see change, the change has to start with us. We have to change our behavior before we can change someone else. So we were both agreeing about the communities, right, Yvonne?
Yeah, we have to ask ourselves, what wolf do we want to feed?
Yeah, and tell that story. Yeah,
I love that story.
It's an older.
There's an old Indian proverb. And the grandfather was talking to his grandson. And he says, within us there are 2 wolves. And the grandson said, which one am I, grandfather? And he said, you are the one that you feed. So which wolf do we choose to feed? Do we choose to feed the evil wolf, or do we choose to feed the good wolf? When we inundate ourselves with 24/7 news media and 24/7 social media, and all we look at is the evil that goes in the world, we become the evil wolf. If we inundate ourselves with nothing but good, then we don't see the evil. So we have to have a balance, and that is the problem. There is no balance in our society.
And it seems as though right now in our country, too, there's such rhetoric about hate. Whether it's hate towards Mexicans or Muslims, or poor me, I'm Indian and I am dark. And I have to say, I've had to have the talk with my children as well. And my way of talking to my children was respect the law. If you're pulled over by a police, they're in a uniform for a reason. That's their job. They ask you to do something, comply. Right. And so right now it's hateful on so many levels, not just politicians, but other people as well. So I think we all need to tone it down a bit.
Well, we hate ourselves. You think about it. When I look at someone and I see their flaws, and I immediately start pointing out their flaws, what I'm really doing is I'm looking at my flaws. And I don't want to acknowledge my flaws because God forbid that I'm not perfect.
Right.
But I'm real quick to point out this other person's flaws.
So change your own behavior first.
Right. The change comes from within. It has to come from within. And we have to be able to embrace people. I don't care your sex orientation, your color, your weight, your height, where you live, how much money you make or don't make. I don't care, because it is the beauty that comes from within that makes us beautiful on the outside. I've seen some very beautiful people in my life, but they were rotten as dirt.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
dead inside.
That's what they call rotten to the core. And, talking about rotten, some things are beautiful, right?
Mm-hmm.
The cover of Yvonne Mason's books. Absolutely beautiful.
Amen,
and
sister,
we
yes.
are very, very lucky to have today with us in studio
The creator.
Kelly Koch, because Kelly is the publisher of her own company called Dressing Your Book. And so, Kelly, welcome to our show this morning, and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you met. Now, I don't want to steal your friend, but my friend. Yvonne Mason.
There's enough for me to go around.
I was going to say.
we can share.
We won't, like Ellen says, we won't have a fist fight.
Right, right.
We'll share. She may only be 4'11", but there's plenty of her to go around.
Yes, yes.
I met Yvonne at an event called the Junior Chamber International Senate meeting. Some people know what it is, some don't. It's a community service organization. Her husband belongs, so do I. I met her there. We became good friends. I started reading some of her books just as a reader, not as anything else, just as a reader, because I love to read. And I noticed there were some mistakes in the books, grammatical errors, some spelling errors, nothing major, just a few mistakes. So I went to her and I politely said, I'm not sure who your editor is, but you might want to consider changing them, because I found some mistakes in your books that I've been reading. She goes, well, I don't really have one. I just do them and they are published that way. They don't edit anything.
And they're great books.
And I say, they're really great books. They're all some true fiction, comedy, mystery, you name it, she writes it. They're all good. But she's like, well, why don't you start doing some editing for me? Take a look at them, fix them for me, and I'll pay you to do that. So I started doing that at first. And then she's like, well, why don't you just start redoing all of my books? Just do it. So I started doing that, and then she introduced me to a couple of other authors, who then introduced me to more authors, and it's just kind of grown from there. I've only been in business a couple of years, so not too big yet. So if you want to get in and get your books published, give me a call.
Do you have a website, Kelly Koch, with Dressing Your Book publishing?
I do. It's www.dressingyourbook.com.
You know
And
what,
I
Ellen?
will
It
post
sounds
that on
like-
Facebook as we're.
It is a
it
work
sounds
in
like-
progress right at the moment. I'm kind of switching some things up on it, modernizing it a little
Yeah.
and everything, but
It
keep
sounds
your
like,
eyes on it.
like us, Ellen, like you and I, how we met.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds as though Yvonne and Kelly met the same way. And I think that's what happens when I say to people, God sends angels your way when you need it. And then that person ends up sitting on your shoulder to help the whole time. So, Yvonne, the last time you were here, in addition to talking about your fabulous books and your great website, gosh, I love your videos, we also spoke a little bit about your beautiful granddaughter, Ramonda.
Oh,
and I know that she passed away. She had a bit of bullying in her lifetime due to a skin condition that she had that was caused by asthma. And now you're also trying to have a foundation in her name and give out scholarship to young children as well. So before we talk about your books, I know our listeners on AM 1060 WMEL and 1060WMEL.com would love to hear about that.
Well, little Ramonda was 13 years old, and we lost her a year ago, this July the 2nd. She was a severe asthmatic, which caused her to have an asthma attack that sent her into cardiac arrest. Yes, she was bullied, and yes, we had to pull her out of school and homeschool her. Upon the year of her anniversary, which has been very painful for all of us, I decided that to keep her legacy alive, because she was an organ donor, that I would set up a scholarship in her name, and it is through the JCI Senate Foundation, which hands out scholarships every year to a deserving high school senior, and it is only in the state of Florida that these scholarships are awarded. Last year we handed out six
$1,000 scholarships.
$1,000 scholarships to seniors. One of them was a name scholarship for my husband, and it went to a young man who's studying criminal justice. And with Ramonda's scholarship, once we raise the $20,000, which is then put into a trust which earns interest, and that's where we get the $1,000 scholarship from, is off the interest. So it perpetuates. It's not just a one-time scholarship. This scholarship will be handed out every year, building on that $20,000. But what we want to do is we want to have the critique for this scholarship to a high school senior who is going into the medical field, whether it be biology research, nursing, doctoring, science, anything that has to do with the medical profession, because I feel very strongly that it was the medical profession that helped us during the time of her death. I saw her doctor weep while she was telling us that our baby was dead. She wept with us. And if we can get more people in the medical profession that are that dedicated, maybe someone will find a cure for asthma, which kills 625,000 children under the age of 15 every year.
Yeah, and I think, last time when Yvonne came on our show, we talked about that, and it's staggering, the amount. And I've been a nurse myself, of course. I had a few of my friends who were in nursing. They said, I had no idea that asthma killed so many people.
Nobody does.
Nobody does, because we don't hear about it. We hear so much rhetoric about everything else in the news except what's hurting our children, right? And you were fortunate in that you had health insurance to help with Ramonda.
Yes.
Imagine the families that don't have health insurance and have to go through something like this.
Well, also
It's
imagine
enormous.
trying to bury a child with no life insurance and no cemetery plot. I started raising money in the hospital before they took her down to have her organs taken out. We raised $3,000 to bury her in the plot, but then we raised another almost $6,000 on a GoFundMe page just so we could have her funeral service.
Now, you had said something about her being bullied because of her a rash that she had. Tell us a little bit about what happened to her skin that caused her classmates to bully her and stay away from her in school like that.
Children, as well as adults, can be the most cruel people in the world. Asthma creates dermatitis, psoriasis, and other host of skin diseases. And when she would have an asthma attack, those skin diseases would exacerbate. She was called ugly. She was called alligator skin. She was told she was contagious. 2 coaches refused to have her transported to the hospital when she was having an asthma attack because they didn't believe that she was having an asthma attack. She almost died that time. So because of all of her health issues, she had to come out of school and learn at home, which is not fair, because she is entitled to an education and social interaction with her peers just like any other child.
So when I said on Facebook that Yvonne Mason is a humanitarian and she's an activist, these are the types of things that we learned about Yvonne over the years, about the things that when she sees something, when she sees a disservice, when she sees something happening. Unfortunately, this happened in your own family.
Yes.
But we talked a lot about bullying the last few times that you were on. And here's a person, once again, Seeta, just like we gravitate to, that yes, tragedy strikes, but then we do something about it. We go out and we try and make a change. $1,000 scholarships to folks that are going into the medical profession that might be able to figure out a cure, maybe figure out a different way. Certainly would be able to educate our school system and to be able to take care of our children better when they're
and to give
there.
back. I think the whole idea is when tragedy strikes, a lot of people, some of them will go into a shell. And they can't cope with it, right? But then some of us, we say, okay, well, why did this happen? And we're curious. We want answers. And not only are we going to get answers, but we're going to do something about it.
That's right.
And I think for people like Yvonne, it gives her more energy, and she shares it with all of us. Because there's so many people that die from diabetes or hypertension or AIDS or HIV, or they're bullied or they face racism like our friend Tammy did.
Right.
And then you take that and it makes you a better person. You become stronger because you have the experience. And when you speak from your heart.
Well,
so
and
I think that's
also-
what happened to you is you saw your granddaughter. And for my listeners who are just tuning in, we're speaking with Yvonne Mason. She is an author. She's, like Ellen said, a humanitarian, and she's graced us with her presence in our studio with her friend Kelly Koch. They're both here. And the young lady she's speaking about who passed away from an asthma attack is her grandchild, Ramonda Highfield.
And the thing is, we can take a negative and we can wallow in it and say, poor me and why me, and feel so sorry for herself. And you know what? That takes way too much energy. Mm-hmm. There's been so many things that have happened in my life. Seeta knows, 18-year abusive relationship. My husband is disabled. I also fight the Disabilities Act because it's a joke. Leaving a legacy for my granddaughter. Why not?
Right.
Why not give her life purpose? She lived more than 13 years than most of us live if we live to be 100. Let's give her a legacy. Let's not let her be forgotten.
Exactly right.
And she's motivating all of us and
And showing
us
it
to do more and
blazing
to
a path.
follow her footsteps. Right.
Exactly right.
And there is a scholarship page on Facebook. All they have to do is look up. How do I have it listed? Ramonda Highfield Scholarship or JCI Senate?
I think it's JCI Senate Scholarship for Ramonda Highfield.
So we'll look to see, and we'll make sure that we get that posted. So with the remaining few minutes that we have before we go to break, one of the things we love about the fact that you're an author, a best-selling author, I might add.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of, you talk about this particular truth in your family and the things that are going on, but most of your books are written around some type of truth, some type of something that happened,
Yes.
whether it be 50 years worth of criminal things that you learn from your father or from your husband, from your research, from you being a bounty hunter. Where do you get your inspiration for your writing?
The very first book I did, my constant inspiration is my brother.
Your brother,
who
right,
is-
Stan.
Yes, Stan, who is mentally and physically challenged, born in 1952 when there were no resources for the challenged, and my mother said, watch this, I am my mother's child. It took me 40 years to get that book out because everybody kept saying, no, you can't do this. Well, even my teacher said, Yvonne, you try the best you can, but you can't write. Thank you, teachers.
Right.
Thank you so much. If you're still alive and somehow get this, thank you for telling me.
Actually, it's those angels that sent Kelly to you, I think, right? It was like, she's going to write anyway, so let's just send her Kelly.
Well, I think all of us face that sort of adversity sometime in our life, right? Because I remember once, as a nurse, I once answered the telephone at work at Humana Hospital, South Biscayne, and a girl came to me and she said, you shouldn't use the PA system. And I said, why? She goes, you have an awful voice. And I've had to carry that with me for so many years
You have
as
a beautiful
nurse.
voice.
Well, of course, I have an accent, but I love who I am. God sent me to Trinidad and Tobago, and that's where I was born, and I have an accent, and I like it. But for years, I was afraid to answer the phones at work because I was so nervous that somebody would say, well, who's talking on the phone? And so I took my adversity, and I have a radio show.
And there you have it.
God, right?
There you go. And
You
with
go,
that,
girl.
and with
Yeah.
that, the gift that was sent to you was John and Vern Harper. And then I came later, of course, and Vince and I came later, certainly.
No, but seriously, people do things like that, and they make you want to work harder to prove yourself.
That's right.
This is Seeta Biggie on the Talk to Me station, AM 1060 WMEL and 1060WMEL.com. And I have to say, at this time in our program, Ellen, we've had over 2,000 downloads per week of Seeta and Friends, and people are sending me emails now. And actually, somebody sent me a private message on Facebook and asked for my email. It's setamedia@aol.com. Yes,
Right.
I have a Gmail account. Before my children get started, they think I'm
Right.
so old-fashioned with the AOL.
I have an AOL account
thing
too. I
is,
think we should just
honestly,
hang on to it.
Yeah, people just don't want to go on my setamedia@gmail.com. They
Right.
all want to respond to me on setamedia@aol.com, and that's fine. But, I mean, what are you going to do, right?
It's all good.
We're all set in our ways at some point.
But we're on iTunes under Viewpoint with Seeta and Friends, and also our podcast. Now, I just found out about this. Yvonne Mason just built her new website, author.yvonnemason.com, and she also is doing a podcast as well on her site, and she's also included our feed for the shows that she is on as well. So how very exciting that we're getting out to all of these different channels, and hopefully people are able to find us and download and enjoy all of the shows that we have on.
Right, and you know, I tell people all the time, it's really not about me or Ellen or the show. It's about taking the gift that God has given us to be blessed to have friends like John and Vern Harper and Vince and all my friends that support the show like Yvonne Mason, and taking our voice in a positive way and spreading peace and joy and trying to promote unity. And because I think it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or what your political title is, at the end of the day, everybody wants a safe home, food on the table. They want an affordable housing, and people want a safe environment. every mother who carries a child for 9 months, no matter where in the world you live, you want the basic things, which is to raise your family in a secure environment. And if you have a particular religious affiliation, that's fine. Don't force it on other people.
Well, and the other part is, too, and I'm seeing all these things that still about applications or anything that I've been filling out that says, what's your race? A Caucasian, Black, Hispanic. And so I'm starting to check the box other and just writing in human.
What I say is I'm an American.
There you go.
I mean, the 5 police officers who were killed, when that happened, I immediately thought, let's pray for them and their families. It didn't bother me one bit who was a Republican, a Democrat,
right.
Independent.
Doesn't
They
matter.
were 5 police officers. So I think we use our show, Viewpoint with Seeta and Friends, in a positive way to spread good messages and reach out to people.
Exactly right.
So
Exactly
now
right.
our second half we want to devote to Yvonne Mason and Kelly Koch. And so Yvonne, you've written some new books since you were here last time.
I have.
So tell our listening audience, how many books have you written so far? And again, give us tell us what inspired you to write the last 2, because I saw it on your website, but I want you to tell us.
Have I written, 17?
This one that we have coming out will be 17, yes.
I've been a busy lady.
Because you have, without a doubt, podcasting and blogging and writing, and I don't know where you get your time in the day. Taking care of your son,
my
or your
disabled husband.
Your husband, right?
Go ahead, tell us.
Okay. The one that I put out last year is called The Mad Hatter. Now, this book is set in 1888 in England, and anyone who is a history buff and a criminal history buff understands what happened in England in 1888. It was better known as Jack the Ripper. But the book is really not about the Ripper, even though he is in it. This book took 4 years for me to put together. It is about a gentleman who owns a hat factory in Southwark, and the way that he gets his product is very interesting.
It's unusual, to say the least.
Very
how so?
interesting. Well, let's just say he doesn't get
from the bounty hunter's eyes, I just got a chill.
Yes.
Let's just say that the animals that he uses walk on 2 legs.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow.
That's horrible.
Now, the Ripper's in it, and the reason
Sounds like it should be a movie.
in fact, a friend of mine said that.
Yes.
Said it should be a noir movie like he
I can
used
just
to
see
watch.
somebody walking into shadows,
Actually, there is a shadow person in the book.
Yeah.
But
authors tend to think alike. I mean, my imagination can run away with me sometimes. Just give me a scene, and I can give you like 100 scenarios what can happen.
Well, the reason that it's called the Mad Hatter, and in all of my research, is hatters in that time used mercury to tan the hides, and it literally drove them mad. So when you say that someone is mad as a hatter, that is a true statement. They can be mad as a hatter. That being said, the second one that came out right after that I was writing in conjunction with that one, is a book of my own short stories called Do You Dare? Now, there is something for everyone in that book. It's stories about children playing dice in the graveyard and children going to visit a house on US 1 called the Old Summerlin House, and what happens to them is very interesting. A mother who thinks she's on a trip to Paris, and she's really not on a trip to Paris. And then, what else is in there? Oh, one of my favorites called Blood Alley.
All the books, the titles of the books and the covers, of course, Kelly Koch helps with these, right? But all the covers, you can actually look at it and say, I want to read that book.
That's
Yeah.
the idea.
Murder, mystery, and intrigue and drama. Sort of like my house sometimes.
Right?
That's the point. If the cover doesn't catch you, you're not going to go any further.
Right. And
You're
I
not
like
gonna
the
pick it up.
print. You know what I like about it is that, of course, I'm a nurse in a nursing home. And I've seen people trying to read books where they have to really strain, whether young or old, right? And your print, they're large print. Not large as the Reader's Digest, but they're larger.
Yeah, we do it that way because everybody, young, old, I watch them. They have a book like right at the end of their nose trying to read it because most publishing houses use such small print because it saves them money. They use less pages to make the book, less paper, less ink. So it's cheaper for them to produce a book.
I wish that kind of thinking went into prescriptions, because you've seen people trying to read a prescription bottle. My God, come on! You're selling most of these pharmaceutical drugs to the elderly, and they're trying to take one twice a day, or one 4 times a day, or one whenever necessary, and the labels are so tiny.
You can't read them.
I've seen a guy literally at Walgreens with the magnifying glass sitting in Walgreens trying to read it. So go ahead. So that gave you, I guess you suppose you didn't want people to be doing that.
That's exactly it. We want the books to be comfortable for people to read. Once they've seen that cover and they're like, ooh, I really want to read that book. Once they open it, we want them to go, hey, this is nice and easy to read. I can just kick back and read and enjoy myself and get immersed in this book and read it from cover to cover in one sitting,
and
which
go
sometimes...
on Yvonne's Mason website, which is, tell our listeners on AM 1060
It's www.authoryvonnemason.com, and there is a new book that will be coming out soon called Justice for Cindy. It is yet another true crime. And with my true crimes, I do not sanitize. So I have the case file, and there were 2 crimes that were committed. This gentleman who abused his wife executed her while she slept shot her in the back of the head and executed her, and then dismembered her body and threw it in the Columbia River in Oregon. And the atrocities that were committed by the state of Oregon perpetrated the second crime, where he abused 2 of his granddaughters once he got out. So this book will make you very, very angry. And if you know anyone that lives in the state of Oregon, they need to write their legislatures, because the laws need to be changed.
Right. Ellen, when you listen to Yvonne, there has to be some sort of your mind. There's some sort of a criminal background in your household. Somebody told you a lot of stuff, right? Because you look at Eat, Pray, Love, and she talks about getting a divorce and going away and writing about finding new love. And then my book is a memoir about 18 brothers and sisters, which I should give myself a plug. It's on Amazon.
Yeah, exactly right. Amazon.com.
Yeah, and then your book, Ellen, is about business recipes.
Well, I have 16 books actually, and they all kind of follow each other.
Right.
But all on Amazon.
Give
same
yourself
thing.
a plug.
Yeah. How to Start series.
That's right.
Yeah, little books of business. If you remember the little golden books, it's the same thing.
My Ellen, my co-host. But the thing is, with you, I could actually see you taking a Sunday drive and speaking with someone and getting all these stories, which you could take and put into a book. So tell us a little bit, where do you get your content and your ideas from?
Well, I started out very young with an evil mind. I always wanted, from the time I was a little girl, to be a bounty hunter, because I used to watch the TV shows, Wanted Dead or Alive or Have Gun Will Travel, and I always wanted to be a bounty hunter. But remember, I was born in the 50s, and nice Southern girls didn't do that.
Right.
So when I got 52 and got into a nasty divorce, I said, watch this. So I went to college, got a degree in criminal justice, graduated with a 3.50, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, you can do that when you get older.
Right.
It works.
Yeah.
Then I married a man who worked for the state attorney's office in the 19th Judicial District. He was their lead investigator, and he took me on a drive down US 1, and told me about a crime that had happened here in Florida that he was a part of the investigation and the conviction of. And as soon as he said he kept their teeth as trophies, I said, oh, okay. So that was my first true crime. And then another friend of ours who worked another true crime where the woman was picked up on A1A and taken down to Fort Pierce and raped and executed, he said, Yvonne, you've got to write her story, because he only writes stories about victims who've been forgotten. High-profile cases I won't touch.
Right, I remember that. Yeah, because there's no sense, because they're getting enough. They're getting enough publicity.
Right.
But isn't that sad that we live in a society where, I mean, if you have money, everything is readily available to you. A high-profile attorney, you can make bail, you can get your story told in the media, and if you look a certain way, like we also, the Casey Anthony trial, right?
Right,
we had so much of it.
Yeah.
Then we saw the young lady that went missing in the Bahamas.
And now she's doing investigations. Can you believe that?
Yeah, and so the thing is, you're right in that you write your story about the people who are forgotten, which I really admire about you.
Thank you.
So if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Yvonne Mason, who is a best-selling author here on 1060 WMEL, AM 1060 WMEL, certainly all over Florida, on the great show Viewpoint with Seeta and Friends, created by Seeta McGee. Also author, and also has books available on Amazon.com.
I just love life. I just wake up every day and I just thank God
Well, you're
for being
amazing.
alive,
Yeah.
right? But here, I want my listeners to know that we're sitting with Yvonne here, and I'm looking at her bio, right? And you were nominated for the prestigious GOAL Award in 2005.
Yes.
How cool is that? So tell us a little bit about that.
I had started college after a very nasty divorce from a man who thought that the grass was greener on the other side and found out that it really wasn't. So I go to college, and my professor, my criminal justice professor, nominated me for this award. And what this award meant was that you would become the spokesperson for the entire state of Georgia for the school that I attended.
Oh, wow.
For the college.
Yeah, I read about it. I was amazed.
Yeah.
I'm like, my friend got this award after 34 years of being absent from the college campus.
Mm-hmm. You can do anything you want, folks.
Yes.
And when he nominated me, I said, "You really want to do this?" He said, "Why wouldn't I?" I said, "Well, all my life I've been told I'm not good enough." He said, "Never again."
Yep, that's the ability to reach your goals is only limited by what's in your own mind.
Well, see, what I say is that you're only limited by the BS story you tell yourself of why you can't do it. And I think Tony Robbins actually wrote that in a book somewhere that said, we tell ourselves these stories all the time, whether it's somebody who told us or tried to influence us in a negative way throughout our whole lives. And if we hang on to that stuff, we keep telling ourselves that story.
You have to forgive people.
Quit telling that story.
For hurting your feelings, for telling you you're not good enough, or obstructing you in some way. You just have to let it go. So Yvonne, what is your checklist? Because there's got to be a checklist that you make and you say, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. Because there are people listening to our show, and they're probably wondering, well, how can she help me by me listening to Viewpoint with Seeta and Friends today?
Well, I have several. There are still dreams out there that I haven't accomplished yet, but they will get there. But my checklist for writing is, first of all, everyone has their own story to tell. Mm-hmm. If you can't tell it yourself, you get a ghostwriter. And when I think of things I want to write about, I make a folder in my computer, and I just put a working title for that book. I leave that folder empty until the voices in my head tell me what to do. And you've got to understand, I'm writing in between doing 24/7 care of my disabled husband. And sometimes it can get very interesting. And coming on Seeta's show, that's part of my checklist. Blogging, that's part of my checklist.
And you have to make arrangement for someone to be with him while you're
I have
here.
to pay someone to sit with which to me it's worth its weight in gold, because the first person that says, Yvonne, you can't, as the girl that built my website said, she will. There is no standard for achieving your goals. The only standard is if you do not try, you have already failed.
Right.
So
and you can keep failing.
And keep failing.
Keep
because
failing.
you keep saying...
So you have to take risks.
Right.
You have to take risks. You
And
have to
you-
believe in yourself and be your own best friend.
And you also have to understand, not everybody's going to love you. I could tell you tales. But that's beside the point. The point is, what is within you that drives you to want to succeed? My brother, who is retarded, yes, I use that term, he never says can't. He says, I can. I can. Well, if this young man who was told he would never get past a 3-year-old level does just about anything he wants to, then who the hell am I not to?
Right.
What makes me any better?
Mm-hmm. Exactly right. And that's what we need to remind ourselves, too, that even through all these trials and tribulations that we have in the world, right? I mean, it takes one person to look in the mirror and say, I can make a difference.
Like that little engine, right?
Yes.
And make a
Remember?
difference.
And
And
make a
go make a
difference.
difference. Go
Well-
find a pocket
well,
to go
on-
make a difference in.
On the other side, you also have people that we all take risks. We can understand taking a risk to open a business, taking a risk to get a loan, and just taking your ideas and turning it into dreams.
I moved to Florida and didn't know a soul.
Well, look at that. But then there's so many people that don't understand people like us who are risk takers. We do as women, sometimes we experience some jealousy and anger and envy and whatever. And I want to say to those people, it's not that we're anything different. We just believe in ourselves enough to take a risk. And we had someone that said, hey, you can do it. So we want to say to people today on AM 1060 WMEL and 1060WMEL.com that Yvonne Mason has written 17 books, went back to college at the age of 54, was nominated for a prestigious award, starting a foundation because her granddaughter passed away from skin-related diseases and asthma. And if you have a dream, don't sit there and wait for someone else to do it.
No,
You can do it.
Do it. What I say is, even if you don't believe in yourself, and let me tell you, people, I was not born in this world believing in who I am until I was 30 years old. I didn't believe I could get out of bed. Basically, I didn't believe I was good enough for anything. So what you do is when you decide that you want to make a difference, and only you can make that difference. No one else can change you. You have to be the change within yourself. And if you say, okay, I'm ready to make that change, what you do is you fake it until you make it.
Oh, I love that. That's a good Facebook post.
You,
That can go for a lot of things.
When someone says, well, how do you do what you do? You smile at them and you say, because I can.
That's right.
And you say it every day of the world until you really believe it.
That's almost like a friend of mine said to me once. She said, you have to keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Those are little things that people
Little
say
things.
to you, but it means so much because it's the God honest truth. So
But-
you fake
and
it till you make it.
But yeah, but I don't think anybody's faking it. That's the only thing I don't like about that phrase, because I think that just like you,
Oh, I
we're
did.
not fake. A lot of us aren't
No,
faking it. We're putting one foot in front of the
Well,
other,
some people
and we're
do,
getting better at it every day.
Some people do.
I don't know.
But I did. I convinced
When
the
you're
world.
being abused in an abusive relationship,
Oh,
you
You
do.
fake it till
that's-
you make
okay.
it.
I mean,
You're absolutely right.
Me
Yes.
coming from
And
a
that-
background
yes.
like that,
Yeah.
I can certainly say that you wake up every day, you put your best foot forward, and people don't know what goes on behind closed doors.
That's true.
And there are so many couples who are living in the same house, but they have horrible lives, treat each other horribly. But when they open their front door, they're
You
like,
put this
"Hi."
mask on. Hi,
Yeah.
my world is wonderful. How is yours?
Yes, I'm great. So you're faking it till you make it, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what she means.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'll go with that.
So
but,
tell us-
but you don't
we-
seem to be a faker of anything. 'Cause
No,
of
I
that
made
you're-
it, honey.
You
I'm
make
there.
it. You make it.
Laugh
You make it
because
all the time.
She walked away and
I
she
did.
started college.
That's right.
But so before we leave, tell our listeners one more time on AM 1060 WMEL and 1060 WMEL.com. I like saying that because they've given us so much.
Yes.
We're so grateful to them, right?
Yes.
And so tell our listeners, both of you, for your websites and how people could contact you.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Okay, my website's www.dressingyourbook.com. And you can also reach me by calling at 305-453-0041.
And she's also on Facebook under Kelly J. Koch, and she also has a Facebook page for Dressing Your Book. Mine is www.authoryvonmason.com. I'm also on Facebook. I have several pages, and all you have to do is Google my name. You'll find me. I'm everywhere. I'm on
Yes.
iTunes. I'm on SoundCloud. I'm on Spreaker. I'm on, where else am I? Stitcher.
YouTube.
I'm everywhere. And I'm very accessible. So contact me. Buy my books. They're all on Amazon, and
you
they're
also do some public speaking
I
as
do.
well.
I do
So tell our
public
listeners
speaking.
about that.
I speak about my past experiences because I am not ashamed of them, painful if they were, because they helped, even though they were a defining moment in my life, they do not define who I am. I am a proponent that women have the power to walk away, even though we're beaten down to the point that we don't think we do. We do. There is that inner strength in us that no one else has, not men, not anybody. Women have that strength, and we can walk away. We just need the tools, and I can give you the tools. I speak about my granddaughter. I speak about my brother who is the reason that I am successful, because he does not believe in quitting. I talk about the disabled and the shaft that they get in this world because we don't treat our disabled and our elderly well.
All comes from lack of education.
Yeah, and that hopefully what we
everything in
do
this
here on
wo-
Viewpoint with
yeah.
Seeta and Friends is educate and get great guests on like Yvonne Mason and like Kelly Koch, who are here today to tell us about their stories and the things that they've done and how they've built businesses like Kelly has, and certainly published 17 books and all of the trials and tribulations that you went through.
Well, taking the risks so that you can help others. It's like the greatest gift in the world.
So once again, another fantastic session here on Viewpoint with Seeta and Friends. Yvonne, we're just so pleased. We love you so much. Thank you so much for coming. And Kelly, it was great to meet you, and hopefully you'll get some hits on your website, because we did, even though you say it's not done, you'll get some hits on your website.
And real quick, I want to say...